George Ezra, what a year he's had. Pretty Shiny People on BBC Coventry and Warwickshire. Now then. Boom, you know the tune by now. Of course, that means it's time to talk films. And we do this every week with our resident film critic. Of course, it can be the man that is James Luxford, who joins us in the studio to review a big weekend for films. Very good afternoon to you, James.
Good afternoon.
Listen, the first thing is, what we should say is, we're into film season, aren't we? Because it's the summer. Everyone saves their blockbusters for the summer, don't they? So we're going to get some real big films coming out over the next few weeks. This is your busy time.
Absolutely. It is Avengers next week, which is probably one of the biggest films of this
I know someone
decade.
wants to see that, yeah.
There's a lot of people who want to see it. I know people who've been pre-ordering tickets and the site's been crashing, and it's going to be some really unprecedented, I think, what the reaction will be.
Now, first up, we're going to talk about this big film with Dame Judi Dench, Red Joan.
Yes, it's a spy drama, as you say, starring Judi Dench as a pensioner arrested for being an informant for the KGB during the war.
Joan Elizabeth Stanley.
Special branch.
What's going on? You are being charged with 27 breaches of the Official Secrets Act. You must come with us now.
Now, Judi Dench, she's just the woman, Dame Judi Dench. She's just the woman who keeps on working, isn't she?
Never stops working, and I think she has a lot of actors have this. They're sort of afraid the phone calls will stop because you have that kind of freelance attitude, and also just a brilliant actress.
And this film, Red Joan, is she sort of playing the sort of character she played in sort of James Bond, but in like a serious way? Is that the sort of genre of this?
In a sense, it springs up that she's sort of this unassuming pensioner, and she gets arrested, and through sort of her son and through the investigation, we see her previous life as this kind of, I suppose a young M, if you like.
A young M, nice, I like it.
So getting involved in some of the sort of top secret projects during the war and moving maybe to the other side when she starts to see maybe things she doesn't agree with.
So the red is an influence to the sort of the East versus West, is it? We're sort of talking Cold War type of thing, sort of Red October, that type of film.
Well, yes, it's set during World War II, but it is involving
East
Russia
and West.
And East and West, and sort of the involvement between the countries of secrecy. And I think it's a weird thing to say. It's a cozy thriller, but it is sort of a bit Sunday afternoon TV kind of mystery sort of thing, which isn't bad. It's very entertaining. But I think Judi Dench, as she always does, lifts it another level. She's just so good in this.
What I always think on films is, what sort of film would I like? What sort of films would I have liked in the past that you'd say, well, if you've liked this in the past, you'll like this?
I suppose if you're a big fan of I don't think it's as good a film, but The Imitation Game, something like that. Yeah. Just those kind of wartime sort of dramas. Maybe recently The Aftermath with Keira Knightley.
Okay.
Is very good.
Now, this film, obviously shot on location. You've got a bit of a claim to fame on this film.
I do have a personal connection to it. Part of it was filmed at my nan's house.
Wow.
They,
Which part, so we can all look for it?
It's a very big part. It's Judi Dench's house. It's
your nan's house?
It's my nan's house, where you see her sort of being arrested. That's where I would knock on the door to say hello to Nan. And, she's in her kitchen. I'm thinking, goodness, I had Easter Sunday lunch there.
So you're
once.
watching this film, you're thinking, that's where my nan used to feed me when she was looking after me.
Yes, absolutely. And me and my mum went to the press screening, and we were sort of elbowing each other the whole way through.
Saying,
it's a bit surreal.
You were like, there's a 50p baby on there, and one of my old toys is stuck down behind the dishwasher.
Absolutely.
That's
an arm of an action man or something.
It's poking out. Fascinating. Now, we're going to talk about another film now, this new one, Dragged Across Concrete.
Yes.
Mel Gibson and Vince Vaughn, but Mel Gibson kind of a bit of a renaissance in the last few years.
Yeah, Hacksaw Ridge, sort of saw him coming back into the Oscar scene, and he's back in front of the camera as a corrupt cop alongside Vince Vaughn, who also they're on suspension, and they look to make some money by robbing drug dealers.
You're losing perspective and compassion. There's a reason I'm sitting behind this desk running things, and you're out there with a partner that's 20 years younger than you.
Hey, Anthony's got a mouth with his own engine, but he's solid.
I mean, you see, he's the Ron Seal of actors, Mel Gibson, isn't he? He does what he says on the tin. You kind of know what you're getting. Are we sort of getting what we expect from him here?
We are, but I think, he's a divisive figure, and whether or not you can separate character from man is one thing. I think the film that surrounds him I really didn't like. I don't mind violence in films, but if there's a reason for it, I think this was kind of just unpleasant. And there were certain things about the character. Maybe this shows me failing in kind of separating man from character, but he's quite right wing. He's quite racist.
Of course, let's point out he is acting in this film.
He's acting, of course. Yes. The character is.
Yeah.
But of course, there's been accusations and headlines around.
So you think it's a
thing.
role maybe you should have declared just for the connotations of what it might mean?
It's difficult to. It'd be like Angelina Jolie playing an actress who's in a very famous relationship.
Right.
It's very hard to sort of separate character from what you've read, I suppose.
Now, final one, of course, big animation films. Now we've got Wheelie. Now, my nephew's just gone back to Spain. We've got a feeling I might be seeing this one over the summer. What's Wheelie?
It's an animation film set in a world of talking cars, following one car who wishes to be a racing champion.
You come up with the best ideas when you're not thinking, Putt-Putt! And that is why you don't mix diesel with petrol, and kerosene, and benzene, and water.
Now, I'm kind of thinking this is like Cars, is it?
Yeah, if you've seen Pixar's Cars, you've seen this
and
film.
And then there are like 4 of those?
There's a lot of them, yeah, and planes and everything. And we had this sort of a week ago with Wonder Park, which was a little bit, for my money, a bit like Inside Out. This is it's startlingly like Cars in the same of the character designs and everything.
Which film, who's made this then? Because obviously Pixar does Cars. Wheelie is that, who's that? Is that
I don't know the production company, but it is sort of a pan-European production.
So when they sit down and say, right, we're going to make a film, and they go, right, we've got Cars 1, 2, 3, 4. What do we need? We need talking cars and an animated film. And is someone saying, are they looking at it and thinking, well, whenever they do that, it just sells because kids love it and you can buy your McDonald's. Or are they looking at it thinking, well, we can do this and do it? Or is it just literally a money machine?
For this sort of movie, because it is kind of a weaker take on what Pixar do so well, I think it is a bit of a cash grab, I'm afraid. And it might work. It's the Easter holidays, or just about, and it's going to draw in some people just on the poster alone, I imagine.
I've got to say, my niece and nephew, they went to see Dumbo on Friday. Boy, did they love it.
Oh, really?
Did you not like it?
I preferred the original. I preferred sort of the original storytelling, but yeah, it was very, I think kids I've seen everywhere love that movie, and Tim Burton just makes a really beautiful film.
Listen, James Luxford, film critic, what are you going to be watching this weekend? What's the film?
Oh, just trying to get into Avengers press screenings, I think.
Good luck with that one. Listen, great to talk to you, James Luxford there. So those are our films of the weekend. We'll just go through those. Red Joan, Dragged Across Concrete, and Wheelie, the new animation film. Enjoy yourself if you're heading off to the cinema this weekend.
BBC Coventry and Warwickshire Travel.